trying something new. Try to actually MotoVlog. Hopefully the mic doesn't pick up too much bike. Lol. Last ride of the season, probably. They're predicting that dirty four-letter word, snow, tomorrow. Yuck. Midwest in late November. So I'm going to top off the tank, put some stable in it, plug it into the tender, and put it up. Probably. I might sneak it out if the weather cooperates, but it'll be down for maintenance. Roundabouts are second gear. Hopefully everyone had a good Thanksgiving, for those that celebrate, which will probably be all 5 of my people who actually subscribe and are active. Let's see. Never talked on the intro. I ride a dad bike. I drive like a... I ride like a dad. Big surprise. Don't do anything crazy. Just poke around mostly. Only been... I mean, honestly, actually only been riding for right at 10 years now. Came up to it late because no one around me really rode. It was never really a thing growing up. I don't know. It was something I really thought about. It seemed a natural extension to my prior vehicular hobbies. I have not taken down any of my old videos, and I do mean old at this point. They're just about old enough to drive in some cases. But I used to autocross, not competitively, but for fun, locally, because, you know. But I had a couple of cars that I took out and played with. I had one Pontiac Fiero I spent way too much money on over the course of about 5 years or so. But it got a lot of rebuild work when I bought it, and I put 30,000 miles on it. Considering it started out with 170, I didn't feel too bad. 160, whatever. Had a souped up Chevy Cavalier Z24, yep, laugh now. I was not a Honda boy, I was a Chevy boy in the sport compact part of the world. But Chevy, GM, made this 50 supercharger kit. Yes, GM part number supercharger kit on the 2.4 liter twin cam motors, which ironically made it put out as much horsepower as the old 2.3 liter high output. So right about 190, not quite 200 horsepower. But 200 horse in a 2,800 pound Cavalier is kind of zippy. It's a lot of fun. Lots of stuff's faster. I've owned faster. But it was still for being, what was I, mid-20s. I had a 15-second car that I could daily. Kind of hard to be mad. I mean, really. I think I ran 15.1, 15.2 down the quarter when it was fully heat soaked, which was reasonably close to a fully heat-soaked Cobalt SS supercharged at the time. Now, if they weren't heat-soaked, they were running mid-14s that day, but they got hot. They were no better than I was. So I didn't feel too bad. You could surprise people. It was fun. Had a 98 Camaro V6 because I'm cheap. After that, got another Cavalier. That was a mistake. Ended up buying a Mustang after that. That was a lot better choice because it was a proper V8. That was fun. I missed that car almost as much as I missed my Fiero, but I missed the Mustang a lot. I had other cars, you know. I got family now, so now I have a minivan with more horsepower than any of my sports cars ever, except maybe my last Camaro, but it was a V6 still, so it was about the same, which is funny. Motorcycling. I decided I traded my Fiero for my first motorcycle. Got a 500cc Honda Ascot single, FD 500 from 1983. Resurrected that poor sucker because it hadn't been on the road. Let's see, I bought it. I got that in 2010-ish, 2009. It had not been plated since 1994, so it had all of the normal, I've been sitting in the back of somebody's garage forgotten for forever problems. Carburetor was gunked up and nasty. The jets were gunked up and nasty. The chain was actually greasy. It wasn't rusty. I actually ended up never changing the chain. It was okay. I was surprised. The tires were dry rotted, cracked, and terrible, etc., etc. But it was a single, super simple. Let's see, I had to clean out the starter bendix and solenoids and stuff because it was all rusty and nasty, and those were notoriously weak. Because that was originally a dirt bike engine, so it should have had a compression release for the kickstart, which in their infinite wisdom on the street bike they took out. If it did not start on the first or second try, the starter was overheated and you were done for 15 minutes. Because that big single was pretty, I don't know, it was just a big single and an undersized starter motor, go figure. That was a fun little bike. I missed that bike. It was fun. It was like 400 pounds, not even, like 375. And 35 horsepower ish. But it was fun. I learned how to ride. I had it for 2 years. Bought a wrecked up, trashed out Katana 600 to do as a flip because they had ratted out. The body was gone. They shredded the wiring harness. It had gunked up carburetors. Notice a theme with old motorcycles here. But I fixed it up and rode it for almost 5,000 miles one summer and sold it at the end for a $400 profit. So, not a lot, but kind of hard to be mad, especially since I got to ride it all year. See, so it was all Street Fighter, so I think it's public. You can poke around. I've got a video called February Running of the Cat. That was that Katana. Let's see, I've got FT500 tinkering or Ascot tinkering or something way back when. That was my Ascot. Ironically, the bike I got after the Katana that was the bike I've had singularly the longest right before this one was a 1984 Honda Magna 700, which was also neglected. It had the wrong jets in it. Somebody swapped in the carbs from the 750, and their jet is different. It didn't run with it. Start with. Bought a set of factory-sized jets. I think I went 1 or 2 steps up. I went 2 steps up. I bought the set for 1 step up. Put in the 2 steps because it had opened up pipes, and it ran pretty good. Should have went with the 1 step higher. It was a little too rich, a little too fat, but it ran good, and the V4 carbs are a pain, so I left it for like 6 years like that. And when it finally stopped being able to keep oil inside of itself because it was 30 some odd years old is when I finally sold it. I bought this, which is my Intruder 1400, which is, for all intents and purposes, a Dyna, or maybe in between a Sporty and a Dyna. But in 03, actually this model originally came out in 87. It's like within an inch of the Dyna's wheelbase. It has a 20cc bigger engine than the Dyna from that year. It's the 1360, where old 80-inch Dyna's was a 1340. Yeah, something in that range. So it's, basically a Dyna. I forget which one, whatever the Dyna is that's got the wire wheels on it. Not Super Glide, but whatever. But it's also, for an 03, about a third the price. Slightly under half. Way cheaper. And to run this one, I have not had to do hardly anything to it. Maintenance, oil changes, tires. It's been fantastic. I did have to replace the back wheel once, because the one that it came with ended up being straight up warped. Like, no amount of spoke tinkering was going to resurrect it. It was really, really frustrating. eBay to the rescue for like 45 bucks. Yay, all done. And this is the one, see, I bought it, this will be my third season on it now, I think. I bought it with 15,000 miles, so 2003, I bought it in 2018, and rode it that season, because it was towards the beginning of the season. Yeah, 18, 19, 20, so yeah, 3 seasons on it. Man, I've managed to put 9,000 miles or so on it. 2019 season got cut short because that's when the wheel ended up being hosed. It would just rattle your teeth out. You could not balance it for nothing. It was frustrating to say the least. But it makes the right V-twin noises. It's torquey. It's got less horsepower than my 700 Magna by a little bit. But it's fine. It's comfy. I only really have one complaint on this bike, and only one, really. And that's a 3-gallon gas tank. 3.5 if you run it dead empty, which means you go 100 to 120 miles, because it just gets 35 miles with a gallon. And so yeah, 100 miles is pretty good though, because by the time you're done 100 miles, instead of the stock seat, you're pretty much over it. I have done, its biggest day on this bike is about 250, and that was with my group ride at Folks from Work. We do these little volunteer day charity ride events. Literally, we'll get paid to go ride my motorcycle around for a day. Because I'm slick like that. But it's not company sponsored, but they call it volunteer time off. So they basically pay you to go volunteer for something cool. Usually we'll ride, before the pandemic, we would ride to a reasonably close, but not super close, because motorcycles, food bank, and go volunteer for a few hours, and then go ride our motorcycles around for a few hours, and it was fun. This year we just said donate to something and come meet us in Batesville, and so we rode from Batesville all around southeastern Indiana, which is gorgeous. Well, look at that house, that is fantastic over there. We rode all around, we didn't actually go through Metamora, we actually skipped Metamora, which is weird, because Metamora is pretty, because they got the canal there and stuff. So we rode all around the country, state highways. We ended up through Aurora, and we ended up in Milan. Yes, we say Milan, not Milan, because Hoosiers deal with it. And let's see, by the time I went to Batesville, from my house in basically Greenwood, then all around up to Milan, and then from Milan back home, it was like 250 miles. So that's probably the single biggest day I've done on this bike specifically. I felt it the next day. I am not as young as I used to be, and so I totally felt that. Totally worth it. Tons of fun. Even with this barn door in front of me, my legs were tired because it's freezing. That video's up here. I got highlights from that. It's on here somewhere. If I think about it, I'll put a card up. I apologize on that video. I had knocked into my GoPro, didn't realize it. And so the entire video is at like a 22-degree angle, which is really annoying. I almost didn't put it out, but a couple of guys from work were like, no, we want to see it. Okay, fine. Which sucks, because that means I've got like 6 hours of video that are kind of... I don't even know where I'm going. I'm just going. I've got to pay attention so I don't run out of gas. Kind of wish I lived a little bit closer to a few of my favorite roads, because I don't get out to ride for hours and hours like I'd like to, because the family likes to see me. Go figure. I'm glad they like to see me. I mean, that's good. That means they're doing something right. They don't want me to just get out of their hair. They like me to actually be there, which is good. But, of course, I like to ride motorcycles too. So it's a balance. I think most motorcycling spouses, could be the hubby, could be the wife, whatever, where the other half does not themselves ride a motorcycle, can probably understand that challenge. You don't want to be inattentive, but you also want to go have fun with your hobby. So you balance, and you compromise. And so you might not ride as much as you'd want to, but you also spend more important thing is you spend the time with the people. Your peoples. Highway blast. What is this? I'm gonna go that. I want to turn here. Get off this road. Still not warmed up. That gear shift is crunchy.